Welcome back, it's me, Lou, and I'm here for another action figure unboxing and review, and today we are looking at this. It comes from McFarlane Toys, and we have the DC Multiverse Dr. Fate. So, as of this recording, it's August 3rd, 2021, and I just received this in the mail just a couple of hours ago. So for some of my action figure reviews, sometimes I'll get them and I don't get to my action. If I buy a new action figure, I don't always get around to reviewing them right away. Sometimes I get caught up with work and stuff, and I'll just set aside, the toys I want to review in a small pile. And if I neglect it for a while, the pile starts to grow and grow and grow, and I get behind on unboxing stuff and reviewing toys. And I'm not always the quickest to the party when it comes to reviewing stuff. But with this action figure, I decided to make an exception. I was really excited when they announced this some months back. So the minute I got this in the mail, my first thought was, you know what, I want to review this today just because I kind of want to take it out of the box and fiddle around with it and play around with it and see, I don't know, because from the photos, it looked beautiful. And just looking at it through the window right now, I'm speechless. I think this is a beautiful action figure. So let's get to it. So first off, the package. So just like most of the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse stuff, it comes in the very plain black box with this nice window, and in the background, you kind of had that comic montage of just, I don't know, random stuff, but it's mostly, I think, Batman and Superman comics. On the side of the spine, we have Dr. Fate, and he's from Injustice 2, the video game. Over here, we have a nice fig photography of him. For me, personally, I kind of enjoy it when they sometimes draw upon, like, comic book illustrations and, they place them on the back. I say this in all my videos. When it comes to the back of the package design, they always feel like an afterthought. I'd really appreciate it if, for the back of the packaging, if they take the time out to at least give you a file card or a bio on the character. Because I kind of feel that there's so many action figure collectors out there that, they might be into, like, Batman, they might be into Superman or Spider-Man, the Avengers, or the X-Men, or they might collect Star Wars or whatever, but they don't always know, the fiction of where these characters are derived from. And for me, I think it's a good opportunity to, like, educate people that aren't they might love the action figures, they might love collecting them, but I think it's a great opportunity to educate these collectors on who these characters are specifically, partially because it might get them interested in the actual comic books or the video games that these characters are derived from. And I think that's a great thing. If you could like increase the numbers of the comic book community or the video game community by a little bit, just because you kind of use these toys and action figures as an introduction to these people that might not be familiar with this character, but they might see the toy and pick it up and go, wow, this is a pretty cool figure. If you listed a bio and some brief descriptor about them, it might encourage them to visit a comic book shop and pick up a graphic novel, or, we might actually win some fans over into the comic book end, because I'm a big comic book guy, and I always get upset sometimes when, people kind of ignore the comic books, because, for me, comic books is, I think, the best medium to tell these kind of stories. Nowadays, you have movies, you have Disney Plus, you have the live action shows on CW. But for me, I really think people should dabble in comic books, even if just a little bit, because I think the fiction there, the universes are so much larger, the adventures are a lot more grander. But I get it, with the immediacy of movies and television, you could get your adventures at the snap of a finger. But I'm running off on a weird tangent again, so let's just get back to Dr. Fate. Alright, so Dr. Fate, I'm familiar with Dr. Fate in the comic books. I played the first Injustice game. The second one, not so much. More so, it was a game I played, like, with friends. We'd go to their house, we fire up a fighting game, and Injustice 2 would be one of them. But I love the look of the character. Some of the video game designs in Injustice and Injustice 2, it's always kind of hit or miss with me. My favorite ones are the ones that kind of evoke the original classic designs, but maybe give it a slight modern twist without going too overboard. For Dr. Fate, for me, it's like as soon as I see the helmet and the color scheme, it just everything just kind of pulls in together, and it works. I love this design a lot, and I'm really glad that McFarlane Toys made this action figure. But it's like I said, for the back, as much as I dig this photo, I'd prefer maybe like a bio, brief description of Dr. Fate in the game, or even in the Injustice comic books, because the Injustice comic books are really popular also. And also in this line we have the McFarlane designed Batman. We have Shriek from Batman Beyond. I saw this figure at Target and I passed up on them. I'm not, as much as I love Batman Beyond, I'm at a point where I'm not that nostalgic for it, where I need new figures of it, because I have a handful of Batman Beyond figures from back in the day, and even though they're not 6-inch scale, they're the smaller 4-inch scale figures. I don't really mind having those. We have Nightwing, we have the John Stewart Green Lantern, and we have Bizarro Superman, or Bizarro just in general. So yeah, let's get this guy open and check him out, and I'm really excited about this. So one of the reasons why I'm really excited about this character specifically is not so much because it's Dr. Fate, but I love what this action figure represents in terms from like a toy collector point of view. I'm a big fan of the McFarlane DC Multiverse figures, and to be honest though, it took me a while to get there. I remember when I first saw the first wave of figures at Walmart. It was early. It was an early morning. It wasn't. I want to say it might have been a Monday or a Tuesday, and I might have been going. I might have been on my way to work, but I decided to hit the toy aisle early before work, just to see if there were any new figures out. And I remember seeing the McFarlane figures. And I remember seeing photos not too long ago online, when they announced them, and I saw them in person, and I was excited for them. And I think I had 2 of them in my hand, and I was about to walk and check them out at the checkout counter. But then I'm like, you know what, I could wait on these. I think it was more so just the impulse of seeing new toys. I think we've all been there. The minute you see a new toy, you might just be so amped about it, or just because it's a new toy, you might just be, feel the need to buy it. But then I was looking at it, and I'm like, you know what? I already have this iteration of Batman. I already have this iteration of Superman. Do I really need another one? And at the time, people were kind of talking about the McFarlane toys. That one of the things that a lot of people were upset about is that they were larger scale than 6 inches. Like these are really more on the 7-inch side of things. And for a long time, a lot of collectors, a lot of people, they had the DC Classics by Mattel, and those are like 6-inch figures. And I think by then, everyone pretty much amassed an entire universe of DC figs. And I think the hope was that when McFarlane got the license, they'd continue to produce figures at that scale just so they could add to that collection. So I think there was some disappointment when these figures came out and they were slightly larger. And I kind of sympathized with that just a little bit. But I think for me, it just gave me an excuse not to jump into a new line. But eventually, I caved in maybe like 8 months later, and I just... Not that I'm buying every figure, but I get excited when I see new figures, and for me it's just like, if I'm interested in the character, I have no problem just picking it up. But what I like the most about Dr. Fate and what this character represents, it's almost like Gorilla Grodd and some of the other characters we got. It's McFarlane Toys looking beyond just giving us a new Batman or a Superman or a Wonder Woman. That's one of the big things that kept me off of this line for a long time, is that I don't need any more Batman figures. I don't need any more Superman figures. I want to expand the DC universe. And it's like, you can't really expand on the universe if they keep on giving you the same 3 characters over and over again, but just in different costumes. So I love the fact that they're giving us Dr. Fate. I think they're giving us Demon down the road. I've seen photos of Lobo. And, they're coming at us with all the heavy hitters who aren't necessarily top tier. So I'm excited about that. I'm looking forward to like just expanding my DC collection on the McFarlane end. All right, I'm running off on a weird tangent again. Let's get back to this guy. So for Dr. Fate, first impressions in the tray, really impressed. McFarlane Toys, one thing they never disappoint in for me is the amount of detail and the craftsmanship and the sculpting that that's involved in their action figures. everything about this guy screams premium. I really think McFarlane Toys is on a completely different level than the stuff we're getting from Hasbro. Like, I love Marvel Legends, but you know, you put this guy next to a Marvel Legends figure, and I think the McFarlane figure will always win in terms of the amount of detail and sculpting and work that goes into it. Now, granted, I think that the Marvel Legends figures have better articulation. In some cases, they might have the same amount of articulation, but I think in terms of when it comes to the range of movement, Marvel Legends figures, they feel a little bit more versatile. You know, you could get them in more poses. Where these, they give you the right amount of articulation, but sometimes the range of movement could be a little bit hindered, maybe by an accessory or an armor piece. Sometimes the figures feel a little bit more stiff, which isn't a bad thing. But I don't know. I just love the McFarlane stuff. For me, I always get more excited about getting a new McFarlane toy than I do getting a new Hasbro. Okay, so here's the figure. Let's take a look at what he comes with. All right, so over here we have a flight stand and we have the trading card. All right, so what I plan to do is I'm probably gonna display this figure mint on card. So I'm not going to remove the flight stand just because the flight stand is on a bubble of its own and the bubble is glued to this card back. In the future, if I get another one of these, I will remove the flight stand because I'd probably want to use this flight stand for other figures. It looks really cool. It's clear. It comes with a base, it comes with a branch, and it comes with the clip. So yeah, alright, so let's review the actual figure itself. So here we have a Dr. Fate as he appears in the Injustice 2 video game. Man, I am so psyched on this figure. So let's examine him closely. So his helm, it's nicely sculpted. Nice crisp sculpts all around. You're not getting any soft sculpts anywhere. His eyelets in the helmet look really nice. There's his ears. His chest armor here. There's I think it's called an ankh. Is that right? That kind of symbol. And then his cape. Beautiful micro texture on his cape. There's some seams along it. Now there's some it's made of a softer pliable plastic. It's not a cloth goods cape, which I love the plastic capes. And they don't get too crazy with it, you know, flowing in the wind or any sort of weird pre-pose. It's just very simple and it's just kind of flowing down. It's kind of odd though that the cape is asymmetrical in the sense that one side hangs lower than the other. But for me that's alright. It's just a little drastic. I think if this came down maybe like a centimeter more, it'd balance it out a little bit better. Yeah, chest armor's nice. His uniform has a beautiful micro texture along it. On the side of his torso, there's some padding here in a lighter blue color versus it's almost like a dark navy for his uniform. He has some black running down his abdomen. Nice belt. His belt has, the buckle kind of has like these wings. Kind of has that, I forgot what the technical term is for the this kind of flap. I used to know it. It kind of has more padding, lightly brown. It's more of like a somewhat dark brown on the sides. More cloth, but I mean it's made of soft plastic that surrounds his lower torso. He doesn't look like he has a flat butt. That's all right. Shoulder armor, which is really cool. Now, this is made of a softer plastic also, so it allows you to move up and it'll just bend out of the way. And I believe it looks like there's a peg, like a wide peg, or I believe a tab. It's tabbed in to his bicep, I think, and it's glued in. but that doesn't hinder the movement. He still has a bicep swivel, which is well hidden. It almost, I don't want to say it looks seamless, but the way it's cut, it's not like the muscle kind of gives it away. And so it's a very clean look for his bicep swivel. He has double jointed elbows. He has a gauntlet here. So all these are kind of like gold, yellow gold kind of like pieces. Slight metallic tint to them. His hands. Now this kind of bothers me a little bit. So his hands are articulated at the wrist. They could go up or down, and you can rotate them also. But it always kind of turns me off the way it's not like a smooth transition from the wrist to the hand. The ball joint here, it's a very, I don't know, it kind of like, they don't do a good way of hiding it or changing its shape so it looks a little bit more natural. It's a very unnatural look with this very round wrist. So for me, it's kind of like, I kind of wish they did a better job of hiding the ball joint on his hand. But, you know, it has to be there if you want to allow for that upward or sideways movement. Underneath this flap here, you can kind of see his torso, lower torso, and see how it's structured. He could kick up. It looks like I think he could kick out. He could kick out, but this is where this kind of hinders the movement. So this pseudo cloth plastic piece kind of hinders his movement, so he can't kick out fully. The paint job, as clean as it is in some areas, it's a little sloppier in others, but I don't think it's necessarily the paint's fault because, so on this flap here, let me move this out of the way real quick. So on this flap here, it's actually glued on top of here, but it's peeling off right there. So that's why you get some of that extra gold there. Now it's going to vary from figure to figure. But for me, it's like the paint's kind of peeling away from this soft plastic and it's stuck there just because that's where it's glued. His knees are double jointed knees, which is awesome. Does he have a thigh swivel? Let me see if he has a thigh swivel. I'm not sure if he has a full thigh swivel, but you could kind of twist his thighs out a little bit. Maybe by like, I don't know, say 10 or 10 about 10 degrees. It's not a whole lot, which is all right. But I don't think he has a boot swivel either, does he? It looks like he has a boot cut right here, but I don't think it. I'm not sure if it wants to swivel or not. It could be a stuck joint. I don't want to force it. So, I don't know, I'll just wait and check out other people's reviews. So, I don't really know the full limits of his leg articulation. Because I don't see a thigh cut up here, and you only get this amount of movement in terms of rotation. And with his boot, it looks like it's a separate piece. Right there, you can see the seam along there, but mine doesn't want to seem to twist, and I don't want to force it. So, I'll just wait until someone else reviews it. Ankle articulation, his toes bend. So yeah, that's the amount of articulation you're getting with this guy. So let's set him down on his back. And yeah, so here's what I was talking about, the asymmetry of his cape. So for some odd reason, this end hangs a little bit lower than this end. I don't think that's a design aesthetic because it's not that drastic. It seems like it's maybe more of a designer thought. So yeah, that kind of, not that it bothers me, but this looks kind of out of place. It adds a little bit of, it makes it look a little bit more dynamic, but if his cape is not necessarily flowing, if it's just hanging there, I think I would have preferred it if it was just a straight cut across and it was more symmetrical. The paint application around here is pretty clean. This brown trim looks alright. It doesn't seem like there's any excess bleeding. Yeah, very quality action figure. Can't say much beyond that. So, this is a must-get, I really think. And the reason I say that is, it sends a message. It sends a message to McFarlane. If this guy sells out, the community needs to tell McFarlane Toys that we want more characters beyond just Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman. Give us characters that, not that they're like D-list characters, but guys that aren't necessarily top tier, like Wonder Woman, Superman, and Batman. They're known as for DC fans, they're known as the Trinity. That's the holy trinity of the DC universe: is Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman. And I mean, rightfully so. They make the most money in terms of merchandising. They make the most money in terms of like stuff like movies. But DC, they have such a rich history of characters, and there's an endless pool of superheroes and supervillains McFarlane Toys could draw from to make new toys. And I think it's awesome that they go across the board. They give us characters from the comic book universe. They'll give us characters from the TV shows, from the live action movies, and the video games. So it's just great. We need to send them the message that we want more characters that are beyond just like the Batman family, that are beyond the Superman family. I say this all the time. I want more Green Lanterns. Like the Green Lantern Corps, it's like endless. There's so many characters they can make, and when you take in consideration the other corps too, like the Yellow Lanterns and the Red Lanterns, it's endless. For video games, like in Injustice, there's like 2 games worth of Injustice, plus the DLC characters. There's an endless amount, and depending on the license, they can even do some crossover stuff. Like for some of you that might remember, there was a video game crossover between, it was like DC versus Mortal Kombat, and McFarlane Toys, they have both licensed. They're producing Mortal Kombat figures, and they have the DC Multiverse line. Why not give us some of, a 2-pack for some of those video games? That'd be awesome. They could give us a 2-pack for that. They could start dipping into like the DLCs for like Injustice. That might get a little tricky because in the or I might be actually confusing that. I was gonna say, because I know that some of the Mortal Kombat games, they had crossover downloadable characters. Like I think they had like some of the horror characters, and they had like Predator and Alien and Terminator and stuff. But then again, going into that, maybe McFarlane could look into the Mortal Kombat line and pull some into that pool of DLC characters. And I know that NECA has Predator, but maybe they could find some weird loophole and give us like a Mortal Kombat Predator figure. The sky's the limit. And with the DC video game stuff, it's like there's so many costumes and characters from the downloadable contents that they could give us. I mean, just let alone the main roster. They haven't really touched upon the main roster yet, outside of a couple of figures. So yeah, buy this figure. Anytime there's a figure that's not Batman, that's not Superman, buy it. Let McFarlane Toys know that we really want more characters beyond the Trinity. A character like this, Dr. Fate, it's beautiful. It captures the iconic feel of the original character, yet it brings in that modern video game aesthetic. And McFarlane Toys, they really delivered and gave us a beautiful sculpted, beautifully detailed action figure. Everything about this is premium, and it really raises the bar for superhero action figures. So I can't recommend this enough. If I had to give this a numerical rating out of 1 to 10, easy a 9, hands down. I don't believe that's too generous. He hits all the sweet spots. He's super detailed. He has all the articulation, but the articulation might be kind of hindered, but I think that's a little bit forgivable. You put this on your display, and this is a very eye-catching piece. The color scheme is beautiful. The color choices, they really did a great job on getting a very solid color palette for this guy. So I'm like glowing here. I can't say enough positive things about it. So yeah, I recommend Dr. Fate. Go out there. If you're lucky enough to find them, grab them. So wrapping this up, my name is Lou. Once again, thank you so much for checking out this video. I greatly appreciate it. I have so many videos with all sorts of action figures. So if you're new to this channel, just give them a look-see. And yeah, I don't know. I'm stoked on this guy. Can't wait to get more DC stuff. So until the next time, take care, and I will talk to you later.